Hey everybody, Canadian Operator here, and today we're going to be comparing about 9 different types of .22 long rifle ammunition. And when I say types, I mean just different kinds of cartridges with different types of projectiles and jacketing and projectile weights and manufacturers and things like that. Now, for the most part, we're going to be sticking as close to 40 grain as possible. We have some stuff that is just pure lead, we have some stuff that is jacketed, and we even have one that has no lead at all. So stay tuned, and we're going to go ahead and get started first of all with the CCI Blazer 40 grain lead round nose. Alright, so I know that I'm already making excuses, but the day that I went to the range, which was last week, was actually with my 1022 before I put my precision stock on. Make sure to subscribe if you want to see that video, which is coming up soon. And it was extraordinarily cold, and I had forgotten to bring a sweater, so my hands were shaking throughout. And I know this just sounds like excuses at this point, but I wanted to let you know because at least I was pretty consistent with my shooting, and there's always a group that has a straggler in it. So with that being said, let's first take a look at the CCI Blazer. This is going to be a lead round nose projectile, and of course no jacketing or anything of that sort, so you are going to likely be getting a little bit more fouling in your barrel. So for those of you who like to clean their firearms often, you'll be very happy with this because it actually performed really well. So let's go ahead and have a look at the group. Now all of these groups were shot at 25 meters away with my Ruger 1022, and as you can see we do have a very nice little group there. I can literally just cover that up just with the tip of my finger, but we do also have a straggler right there. So not too bad, and I need to add that this is one of the, if not the most affordable ammo on this entire list. So if what you're looking for is really good performance and you don't mind cleaning your bore a little bit more often, then honestly you can stop right here. The CCI Blazer is honestly one of the best performing options at the cheapest price that you're going to pay for any of these. But if you want to know what's next, just stay with me. We got a few more to go. Alright, so the next one is also CCI, but it's a little bit different. And honestly, it's one that I personally swore by for the longest time. Back when I had my GSG-16 semi-automatic, just like my Ruger 1022, I needed something that was higher velocity because typically you want something that's higher velocity in order to be able to cycle your semi-automatic actions. And so I would swear on my CCI Mini Mag, which is the next one we're going to be taking a look at. Now I don't have the box here because a little bit of foreshadowing here. I sold all of my Mini Mags to a buddy of mine. But the reason why I did that is because I no longer had cycling issues with the Blazer and a bunch of the other options that we have on the table here today. And so I didn't really have any need for the Mini Mag, especially with the accuracy, which you're going to see. Now, what's important to note here is that the Mini Mags are, I would say, probably about maybe 40 to 50% more expensive than the Blazers. Again, we're not going to be discussing exact numbers, but when you see the spread, you're going to realize that it was not really totally worth it. So there it is. That's a 25 meter spread, and you can see that they're definitely spread out quite a bit more than the Blazer. In fact, if we compare the Blazer, I don't know if you're going to be able to see that, but that is really quite a big difference. We've got the Blazer right here on the left, and we've got the CCI Mini Mag right here on the right. And yeah, honestly, this is a big difference. And for being anywhere between, I would say maybe you can get away with 30% more expensive, 30 to 50% more expensive. This one is honestly not worth it. Now, there is, of course, the issue of being jacketed and being also 40 grains. The 40 grain doesn't really make a big difference because the lead round nose in the Blazer was the same weight. Of course, when we say grain, we're talking about the weight of the actual bullet. But honestly, there's a pretty big difference in accuracy at 25 meters, and when you push that out even further, you're going to exacerbate those results. So if you don't need something to cycle your semi-automatic, if you're absolutely fine cycling it, or if you have a bolt action, for example, then you probably just want to go with the Blazer or maybe one of the other options that we have here today. The Mini Mag is certainly a really well put together round, and it's really reliable. And you know what? When I had my GSG-16, I never had any cycling issues. Not a single failure with the Mini Mag. And that is what the Mini Mag is really good for, in my opinion. Let me know down below if you've had any luck or unfortunate mishaps with the Mini Mag, but honestly, with how they compare to the Blazers, I'd go with the Blazers so far. All right, so moving on from the CCI, we are now going to move on to Norma. This is the Norma TAC 22. 22 long rifle, of course, like everything is here. And this is also a 40 grain projectile in a lead round nose configuration. And yeah, this one's pretty interesting. And to be honest, it shot fairly well. Actually, very, very well. As you can see, that is our group right there. I'll see if I can get a little bit closer for you. And we can see that we have a really nice grouping there. We have pretty much a bunch of shots on top of one another there. And the Norma is going to be just a little bit more expensive than the CCI Blazer. I would put it at probably just under the price or around the price of the mini mags, but sometimes you can get it for a little bit less. So sometimes it kind of straddles that midpoint between the Blazer and the mini mag from CCI. Honestly, I'm really pleasantly surprised with this ammo. I tried it with my GSG-16 when I still had that rifle, and I wasn't too impressed with it. I was having quite a lot of jams and misfeeds or failure to eject and things like that, and I don't know whether a lot of those were attributed to my GSG-16, so I tried them in my Ruger 1022. Video up here, by the way, if you haven't seen that review. And honestly, I still had a few jams, but it wasn't nearly as bad as on the GSG-16. So I'm trying to figure out if that lends itself to meaning that the GSG was maybe not as well engineered as the Ruger 1022, and to be honest, I wouldn't be surprised, and that's not to say anything or to speak poorly about GSG in general, because I really had a great time with that rifle, but definitely the 1022 is a bit more reliable, and I found that this particular ammo was definitely more reliable in my 1022 as well. Again, let me know in the comments about any experiences you had with any of this ammo. It's always good for us to share information, because then we can all make better choices when we go to buy ammo at our local shop. All right, so the next one is also going to be from Norma, but unfortunately I don't have as much good stuff to say about this one. This one is going to be the Norma Eco Speed, and I don't have this package with me, unfortunately. I tried to get rid of them as quickly as possible, and that should kind of give you a little bit of foreshadowing as to what I'm about to say about this ammo. So essentially it's a very light projectile. I think it's something like 26 or 28 grains, so it's super, super light, and that's part of the reason why it's so fast, as the name, at least in part, implies. So this one, I think it's about 1600 something FPS, where a lot of the other ones were just fast enough to break the sound barrier, right around the 11 to 1200 feet per second. This one comes in at just a little over 1600. And I don't know if it's the speed that gave it its inconsistency, or if it was the weight of the projectile and making it more susceptible to wind and changes in the environment, or other things, or maybe a combination of everything. But the Eco Speed was an absolutely horrible round. Now, listen, it's really, really good if you're within fairly close range and you want to hunt small game, because it's also completely lead-free, and it's the only lead-free option on this entire list. So if that's your priority, then hey, maybe you can make it work. But in my 22, I couldn't, and honestly, this group was just not acceptable. As you can see, we are literally all over the place here, and this is probably one of the worst groups that I got at the range with all of the different ammo that we tested. I was just really not happy with this, and again, I don't understand what it was about this particular ammo that made it so inconsistent, but I did my best to try to control my breathing. Of course, I was really cold because I forgot to bring my sweater on a very cold range day, even though it was an indoor range. But nevertheless, the variables were all the same for all of these different ammos that I shot, and they were all done on the same day. So the fact that this one is really expensive, and I'm talking like LA pricing, and if you guys have shot LA, then you know those guys charge an arm and a leg for their ammo. However, it is well worth it, because you're about to see just how well they shot. Well, we're going to save the best for last, but in any case, you will see if you watch until the end of the video. So yeah, I'm not very happy with this. I think the application for the Norma Eco Speed would be, generally speaking, for small game hunting where you're at a relatively close range. And if you have a longer barrel, I'm not sure with 22 long rifle that that's really going to make you a lot more accurate. It might help a little bit, but it seems like there's quite a lot of inaccuracy here. And again, we're talking about a very light projectile. I would say almost half the weight of some of the other projectiles on the table today. And I'm not sure if that alone is making the big difference, but if you're experienced in ballistics and you want to help us understand that, please do so down below in the comments. All right, so the next entry in the list here is going to be a name that many of you will recognize, and they're not known just in the 22 long rifle segment. In fact, they've had a number of different cartridges named after them, and for very good reason, because they make some pretty good ammo. So the next one on the list is going to be our Hornady, and this one is a 40 grain lead round nose projectile, so not unlike many of the other ones that we're going to see here today. In terms of price, it is going to be a little bit more than the Norma. Sometimes you can find it at about the same price, but it tends to be slightly more expensive. I'd say maybe about 50 cents to $1 more per box than the Norma, but it is a fairly reliable ammunition as well. And honestly, the groups are pretty solid. So let's take a look at that one. We've got the groups here. Now again, these are all going to be shot at 25 meters. They're all shot on the same day. So you can see that we have a pretty good grouping right here. We do have a little straggler just right here, which was just a little bit off. But again, I'm being very consistent with my stragglers today. I was basically having the same issue with pretty much most of the ammo that I shot today. So this one, pretty solid. Definitely a nice little grouping down here once I kind of got focused and on target. And I'd like to say that, again, this ammunition is fairly consistent. It's really reliable. It is a little bit more expensive, and so if I had the option, for example, I would still stick with the CCI Blazer because it has comparable, if not slightly better performance. I don't know what the ballistics would be in terms of, going out and hunting and so on. I've been told by some of my friends who have a lot more hunting experience than I do that you probably don't want to hunt with lead round nose anyway, but if you are going to do that, then you probably want to spend a little bit less on your ammo if you can get away with similar accuracy. And so that being said, I think the difference between this and the Blazer, which you can rewind back in the video. I'll try to put some timestamps as well so that you can kind of click through and compare them. But the accuracy is quite good. And again, if you don't have options for anything else, the Hornady is a very good choice. But because it is a little bit more expensive, I would certainly lean a little bit more towards the CCI Blazer. And if not the Blazer, then I think the Norma would be my second best choice. The TAC-22, not the EcoSpeed. All right, folks, so let's go ahead and talk about the cream of the crop here. We've got 4 boxes left, and all of them from the same manufacturer. And if you watched the beginning of the video, then you probably already know which one I'm talking about. But let's talk about the first of the 4, and that is going to be the Eley Subsonic 38 grain hollow point. Do let me know in the comments, by the way, if I'm totally butchering that name. But these are very different in that, yes, they are hollow points, so a little bit different than pretty much all of the other options available here today. And they are 38 grain, which is a little bit lighter, but that's not going to realistically be a huge difference. So why the hollow point and why subsonic? Well, subsonic is great if you're not using a semi-automatic firearm, although I should mention that LA does also produce a semi-automatic version of the same ammo, which I don't have with me today. But it does happen to do a better job at cycling semi-automatic firearms. So if that's an issue that you're having and you need to use subsonic rounds, then consider looking into that as well. Now, hollow points are really, really good, and I recommend them for hunting more than anything else. Of course, you can target shoot with them as well, but hollow points are great because it's the same reason why we use soft points in larger calibers when hunting bigger game. Well, for smaller game, these ones are great because, like soft points, they tend to expand when they hit their target, and they typically transfer a lot more energy in a much more efficient way into that target that is in that projectile once it's been fired out of your firearm. For that reason, they are way better at hunting because you've got a much better chance at getting a cleaner kill instead of, having a non-humane kill or having the animal suffer or bleed out or so on. So if you're looking for something that is going to be quite quiet and also really good for hunting, then this is definitely an option for you. And again, do check out their semi-automatic variant as well. I haven't had the chance to check it out myself. If you have, do let me know in the comments down below if you found any luck with that cycling your semi-auto actions a little bit better. But in any case, let's go ahead and take a look at the grouping on this. And the grouping is honestly not too bad. So again, we have the little straggler just down there at the bottom, and then I kind of got my shit together here and finally were able to get some pretty decent shots. So honestly, not too bad. These are pretty much just left to right, side by side. They all seem to be touching. And so for subsonic ammo, I think it's really, really good. Not that I've had experiences where subsonic ammo has been too inaccurate, but again, if it's moving a little slower, maybe there's a potential of it being affected a little bit more about the environment. Again, if you happen to be a ballistics expert, do let us know in the comments down below how that works out. But in my experience, I've really, really enjoyed this ammunition, and I found that the price to performance ratio is quite good, especially if you're a small game hunter. Alright, so the next one, as you could probably have already guessed, is also from Eley, and I'll just spoil it for you, the next two are as well, and that's going to pretty much round out our list. But this one is going to be the 40 grain, and we're back to lead round nose. This is the Eley Sport, and this is honestly really, really good ammo for just taking out to the range if you want to do some light competitions and stuff like that with it. It's definitely got the weight there to carry well, and it's very, very accurate. Not too different in construction from some of the other options that we have available here. So let me just go ahead and show you what the grouping looks like. And before I do that, I should say that I think I kind of screwed the pooch on this one. I don't think it's a very good, at least my first two shots, not a very good representation of what this ammo is capable of, but the last three definitely are. So let's have a look here, and we can see that we have a couple of shots down here. We've got, I think there's one right there. So a little straggler there, and then we have another little straggler right there. And then, you know, once I kind of got my shit together, then we have three pretty much right on top of each other. So those three there, I mean, I think that shows fairly decently that this ammo is very capable at you know, a decent range. Now 25 meters isn't going to be that far, and I'm pretty sure you're not going to see too much more of a spread if you take that out to 50 meters, especially if you're shooting indoors. But even if you're shooting outdoors, you know, if you're careful, if you have good stabilization on your rifle, if you have a good optic that's really nicely dialed in, and if you control your breathing and your movement, then I'm pretty sure you're able to get that little tiny group maybe just slightly further apart at a 50 meter or even 100 meter range. Now, again, in my experience, I've really enjoyed shooting this ammo. It is going to be a little bit more expensive yet than the Subsonics. I'd say if it's on sale, you'll find them at around the same price, but it's a little bit pricier, and that will continue to be the trend as we make our way through the next two boxes. Again, though, it's Eley. It's wonderful quality. The ammo is fantastically made. I mean, like the quality when you pick this stuff up, as for pretty much all Eley ammo, it's really good. Like, guys, it's really good. And I have to say that I'm also really impressed with the Hornady and with the CCI Blazer. Much cheaper offerings, but again, the quality of that ammo is really there. You're probably not going to see those tiny little differences in tolerances of the manufacturing process, but when you pick them up into your hand, you can really feel they're smooth, they're polished, they feel nice, they're nice and clean as far as the brass goes anyway. And they feel really good. So if you're looking for, you know, a little bit more of an accurate option, the Sport is definitely a good choice. Of course, we do also have a couple more that are coming up. But if you're a little bit on the cheaper side like me, and you just want some nice bulk ammo to blow through at the range with your buddies, then guys, honestly, I'm still sticking with my guns on the Blazer here. Like, it's a really solid addition for being the cheapest one on the list. Again, it continues to be one of the most accurate and reliable. We are on second to last here, and well, second to last sounds pretty horrible for how great this ammo really is, but this is the Eley Match. Again, we're looking at a 40 grain projectile. This one is a flat nose though, so we're moving away from that round nose a little bit, and definitely very interesting to say the least. It's also going to be lead. We don't have any kind of copper jacketing. In fact, I believe that the only ammunition on this entire list that has copper jacketing is going to be the Norma the Norma EcoSpeed, which of course is completely lead free, so it's got a little copper jacket, and then of course the CCI Minimag as well. So this one quite a bit more expensive, as the name implies. It is match grade ammo, exceptionally well made, very tight tolerances in terms of its construction and its manufacturing, and you'll be able to see that in the grouping here. Now again, I do believe that the little straggler here down at the bottom is my inability to basically be able to manage my breathing and manage my movements and all that kind of stuff. But as you can see, The rest of the 4 here are literally right on top of one another. I'll see, hopefully that is in focus there for you. But that is fantastic. Like, that is an exceptionally tight group. Now again, for these, I wasn't shooting for bullseye, by the way, just in case you're kind of curious, like, whoa, dude, you were like so far off the bullseye on most of these. Like, what's wrong with you? You're a terrible shot. And you probably wouldn't be wrong saying I'm a terrible shot because I'm not that great of a shot. But in this video, we were not shooting for bullseye. We're shooting for groups, okay? And the reason why, and you know, I gotta say this, and I digress, I know, but I gotta say this because I've been watching some of the videos on YouTube, and some of these guys are like, oh, by the way, huge disclaimer, we're not shooting for bullseye, we're shooting for groups. And I thought to myself, sitting there as a keyboard warrior, as most of us would, you know, why wouldn't you just sight it in and shoot for bullseye? Well, because you have to sight it in, and that's the thing. And when you're shooting, you know, 8, 9, 10 plus different types of ammo, you don't want to have to re-sight it in all the time, especially if you're a guy like me who the very first option on your list is the one that you shoot day to day, and then you're going to have to go back and sight that in once you're done with your video. So now I completely understand why that is the way that it is. And shooting groups is also a really good indication of the quality, reliability, and consistency of the ammunition, because it tells you that as long as you keep all the other variables the same, basically how well that ammo is adapting to that particular situation, and then you can compare that to all the different ammo that you have. So I understand that now, and hopefully that little explanation helps you to understand that as well. It's really something that when you start to put into practical terms, it really becomes abundantly clear why it's better to do it that way. But in any case, I really found the match ammo to be really good. Again, you know, really solid little grouping there together. They're all touching, and they're pretty much almost all right on top of each other, which is great. Again, is it worth the extra money? I don't know. That depends on how much money you have and whether this is even something that's available in your neck of the woods. But again, fantastic match ammunition. I haven't done any competitive shooting just yet, but if I do, certainly this is one of the brands and one of the types of ammo that I'm going to be keeping an eye on for sure. All right, folks, so we're going to go ahead and talk about the last, but certainly not least, addition to this list. It is the most consistently accurate ammo that I have tried among all of these. But before I share that with you, just wanted to thank you very much for making it all the way until the end of the video. I hope you know that puts a big smile on my face, and I really do appreciate you for that, so thank you. Right, so the very last, but again, as I said, not least entry to the list here is going to be the Tenex. Of course, because of course it is. The Eley Tenex 40 grain patented flat nose, and flat nose very much like the match ammo before it. And guys, I gotta tell you, this ammo is really consistent. Now, I'm a pretty shit shot, but at least I'm consistently shit, so that definitely helps when you have consistent ammo like this. This is what I got with the Eley Tenex. We've got a little tiny straggler down there, still made contact with the rest of the group, so not too bad. We'll just go ahead and count that as a full group. But we've got basically all the other 4 right there, just all hanging out together in the same little spot. And again, I could probably, you know, fit my fingernail over that. Very tiny little group here. This is, you know, obviously this is not the target I was using. It is the target I was using, but the target was quite a lot larger, is what I wanted to say there. I've just cut them up to make the video a little bit easier to deal with. But yeah, very consistent ammunition. Now, one of the things I should mention is that this ammo is going to cost you about as much as 20 rounds of .308, and if you don't know how much that costs, then you can look either of those up on your local retailer's website. They are not cheap, okay? And if you are shooting competitive, and especially if you are a great crack shot, if you have a lot of discipline, very good technique, and all of those other things that that make, you know, good shooters, then this ammo is just going to make you an absolute all-star. But I could say very similar things for the match, and, you know, probably even for the sport. All of Eley's ammo is exceptionally accurate, and I've even seen videos of guys going out to the LA plant out in Britain and basically finding a batch that matched really well with their rifle and shooting with that, and just getting pinpoint, you know, laser beams at 100 meters away with that configuration. So Eley is certainly a wonderful manufacturer when it comes to ammunition. They have a very low tolerance for error. And again, that's not to say that for everyday shooters like you and I that we need to go out and buy this kind of ammo. In fact, I would say quite the opposite. I would say that I'm quite happy with my Blazer. And you know, CCI is not a small manufacturer by any means. In fact, they're probably one of the biggest ammo manufacturers in the US, and they have a really well-refined process as well. So I know I'm propping up LA quite a lot here, and that's for good reason. They are very good, but you're going to be paying a price with that. If you're looking for something that has, you know, really, really good value, I think, honestly, the Blazer or the Normatec 22 is going to do it for value. Now, if you're looking for reliability, reliability is certainly interesting, and one that I have not had a single issue with is the Hornady. So for price to performance ratio, as far as reliability goes, I've had a really good experience with the Hornady. Again, a little bit more expensive than the Normatec 22 or the CCI Blazer, but certainly a fantastic ammo. If you're looking for sort of a mid-range subsonic, especially if you want to go hunting with hollow points, then the LA hollow points are really good, the 38 grains there. And then again, any of the sport, the match, or especially the Tenex, if you're looking for competition shooting with your 22 long rifle. That's going to do it for me, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so very much for watching. I very much appreciate your time. Please leave me your thoughts down below as to what works for you and what you thought of any of these. And if you've ever tried any of the ones on my list, certainly it's not an exhaustive list, but I hope that you found the video helpful and that it helps you choose the right ammunition for your 22 long rifle. That being said, thanks again very much for watching, and I hope to see you in the next video.